All right, let's talk about the Queensland Evidence Act. If you're prepping for the bar exams, you know that getting official documents into evidence is a make or break skill. So let's build your toolkit for doing just that. No fuss.
Okay, picture this, because it's gonna happen. You're on your feet in court. You've got a government report that's absolutely crucial to your case. How do you convince the judge it's the real deal? You're not gonna call some public servant who just hit print, are you? Of course not. There's a much smarter way.
So here's our game plan. We'll start with why this is even a problem. Then we'll get into the good stuff, the purporting shortcut in Section 44, which is your new best friend. We'll look at documents that basically prove themselves, how to handle online legislation, and wrap it all up with the absolute must-knows for your exam. First up, the everyday courtroom problem. Let's be real. We need to understand why these shortcuts exist in the first place. They aren't just for convenience. They're essential for a functioning legal system. Just imagine the old way for a second. Total chaos, right? For every single official document, you'd have to drag a witness into court, the stenographer to swear a transcript is right, the government printer to say they printed a report. It would bring the courts to a standstill. It's just completely impractical. So the smart way, the way the Evidence Act sets you up for success, is by using these shortcuts that let the documents vouch for themselves.
All right, let's get into the mechanics. Meet your first and maybe most important tool, Section 44. Seriously, think of this as your all-purpose evidentiary wrench. You're going to use it a lot.
The whole thing hangs on one magic word, purporting. You see that word? Your brain should light up. If a document looks like what it claims to be, if it purports to be an official record, the court just accepts it's authentic. That's it. Section 44 completely removes the need for any other proof. Now, here's where it gets really good. Section 44 gives you what we call a double dispensation. It's a 2-for-1 deal, and you've got to know this. First, it gets the document in the door. It's presumed authentic. And second, it actually proves the facts written inside it. That is an incredibly powerful shortcut. And this isn't just theory. Look at how it works in the wild. In NV v. Queensland, they needed to get a tribunal transcript into evidence. Did they call the tribunal registrar? Nope. They just handed it up. Because it purported to be the official transcript, that was good enough. That's Section 44 doing its job beautifully. Okay, so you have your all-purpose wrench. Now let's add some specialty tools to the kit. Meet Sections 45 and 46. These are your precision instruments, made for some of the most common government documents you'll come across. It's really simple. Section 45 is your go-to for the government gazette. If it looks like the gazette, the court accepts it's the real one, published on the date shown. Section 46 does the exact same thing for anything printed by the government printer. It proves it's an official doc, no more questions asked. The big takeaway here is this: production is proof. You just hand it up. That's it. You don't need to make a long submission about it. You just need to produce the copy of the Gazette. Think of it like these documents have their own built-in certificate of authenticity. It saves a ton of time. But we don't live in a paper-only world anymore. So what about all the stuff we find online? The law has caught up, and your toolkit has to as well. Let's look at the modern tools for handling digital age legislation. Section 46A is basically your quality assurance. It says if you have an official copy of Queensland legislation, like one of those handy reprints, it's presumed to be accurate as of the date printed on it. So you can be confident that all the amendments up to that point are already included. It's reliable. And this is where it gets super practical. Section 46B gives the court flexibility. It can inform itself using pretty much any reasonable source, an electronic version from the internet, a version on a CD-ROM, or even a printed copy from a non-government publication. But, and this is a massive but, especially for your exams, there's a catch. Subsection 2 says the court must consider if the source is reliable. So if you're pulling legislation from a random website, you better be ready to stand up and argue why that source should be trusted. It's a critical check and balance. All right, let's distill all of this down. When you're in that exam room and the pressure's on, this is what you need to have front and center in your mind. These are the key takeaways. Remember the number 2. That's for the double dispensation from Section 44. 1, the document is presumed authentic, so it gets in. 2, it proves the facts inside it. It's a powerful 1-2 punch. And here they are, the magic words. For your exam, knowing these phrases is like having the keys to the kingdom. They're the triggers. Purporting to be is your key for Sections 44, 45, and 46. And as soon as you're dealing with anything digital under 46B, the phrase that should pop into your head is, appears to be a reliable source. So let's finish with this thought. These sections, they're not just abstract rules you need to memorize for an exam. They are the actual, practical, day-to-day tools of a barrister. So when you see a problem question, don't just think, what's the rule? Think like a barrister. Ask yourself, what tool do I need for this job? Because making that mental shift is what turns you from a law student into a real advocate.